I'm 34, an emergency department physician at a major hospital, past 10 years, spent constructing the exact life progressive feminism said would fulfill me. Condos paid off, lease a German luxury car, hit Europe twice annually on my save paid time off, sit on hospital board committees, published in medical journals, respected by colleagues, have always prided myself on being completely self sufficient, never needed anyone for anything. Relationships have always been on my terms, equal split of everything, no traditional gender role nonsense. If a guy even hints at wanting to pay for dinner, immediate red flag means he thinks I can't handle my own finances, means he sees me as lesser. Have had probably 15 relationships over the years, none lasting more than 8 months. Always my choice to end things. They inevitably start hinting at wanting more traditional dynamics. One guy literally had the audacity to suggest I might want to take it easy after I worked a 16-hour shift. Like, excuse me, do you think I'm fragile? Do you think female physicians can't handle the same workload as men? Dumped him that night. Another one kept wanting to fix things around my place. I have a superintendent for that. And also, I'm perfectly capable of using YouTube tutorials. His insistence felt patronizing, like he thought I needed a man to handle basic household repairs. Gone. My friends from med school are all the same way. We meet for wine every Thursday and discuss our careers, our achievements, our independence. None of us are married. A few have kids via sperm donors. We've built lives that don't require male validation or presence. Then last year, I meet Michael at a hospital fundraiser. He's a wildlife veterinarian, works with a conservation organization. Immediately, I'm intrigued because it's an unusual field. He clearly cares about important issues. He's attractive, well-spoken, seems progressive. We start dating. First few months are great. He never tries to pay for everything. We split things equitably. He respects my career. Doesn't get intimidated when I talk about my work. Doesn't make weird comments about me being a doctor like some men do. You know the type. Well, you must be really smart, in that condescending tone. Or worse, I bet you're too busy for a relationship. Michael seems different. He has his own life, his own career he's passionate about, doesn't seem threatened by my success. Around month 4, things start shifting subtly. At first, he mentions his sister getting married, asks if I want to go to the wedding as his date. I say sure, sounds fine. Then he mentions it's a traditional wedding. His family is kind of old-fashioned. I immediately tense up, ask what he means by old-fashioned. He brushes it off, says just that they're close-knit, family-oriented, whatever. I can handle one weekend with some traditional people. The wedding is in rural Oregon. His family has a farm. We drive up on a Friday afternoon. The whole way there, Michael is telling me about his childhood, growing up on this farm, how his parents have been married 40 years, how his sister and her fiancé have been together since high school. I'm internally cringing, but staying polite. We arrive and his family is a lot. His mom immediately hugs me like we're already family. His dad shakes my hand and says, "We've heard so much about you." His 3 sisters are all there with their husbands and collective 7 children running around. It's chaos. Dinner that night is this huge family affair. Everyone sits around this massive table, multiple conversations happening at once. His mom cooked everything. His dad is grilling steaks outside. I offer to help and his mom waves me off, says I'm a guest. I insist because I'm not going to sit there useless while another woman does all the work. She finally lets me set the table. During dinner, I notice the dynamics. The wives are all very domestic. They're talking about their kids, their homes, meal planning, gardening. None of them seem to work outside the home. One of them was a teacher, but quit when she had her first kid. I'm sitting there thinking about how much potential they've wasted, how they've made themselves financially dependent on men, how they've reduced themselves to traditional roles that feminism fought to free us from. Michael's dad asks about my work. I tell him about the emergency room, about a difficult case I handled last week. He listens politely but then says, "Must be hard to balance that with family planning." I freeze, say, "I don't have family plans. My career is my focus." Awkward silence. His mom jumps in and changes the subject. After dinner, the men go outside to drink beer and the women start cleaning up. I help clean, because obviously I'm not going to perpetuate gender roles by leaving it all to the women. But I'm irritated that the men just automatically left and didn't even offer to help, and the women didn't expect them to. Michael's sisters are asking me about my relationship with Michael. When are we moving in together? Have we talked about marriage? Do I want kids? I explain that I'm focused on my career, that I don't see marriage as necessary for a fulfilling relationship, that traditional family structures aren't the only valid way to live. They all get quiet. One of them, Rachel, says, "Oh, well, everyone's different, I guess." In that tone, that means she thinks I'm weird, but is being polite. Later that night, Michael and I are alone in the guest room. I tell him I felt uncomfortable, that his family seems very traditional, and it's not an environment I relate to. He says he knows they're different from what I'm used to, but they're good people. I say, I'm sure they're good people, but good people can still perpetuate problematic structures. He looks confused. I explain that the gender dynamics in his family are regressive, that his sisters have sacrificed their independence and potential, that the expectation for women to be homemakers while men avoid domestic labor is exactly what's wrong with society. Michael is quiet for a long time. Then he says, "My sisters are happy." I say happiness under patriarchy isn't real happiness. It's just women being conditioned to accept less. He says, "I sound like I think I'm better than them." I say, "I don't think I'm better. I think I'm more aware." There's a difference. He drops it, but the tension is there. The wedding the next day is beautiful. I'll give them that. Very traditional ceremony. The bride's father walks her down the aisle. Vows include the bride promising to honor and cherish, the groom promising to protect and provide. I'm internally rolling my eyes. At the reception, I'm seated with Michael's family. His sisters are all talking about how beautiful the ceremony was, how romantic the vows were. I mentioned that I found the gendered language in the vows a bit outdated. Rachel asks what I mean. I explain that the idea of a man providing and protecting implies the woman is incapable of providing for or protecting herself, that it creates an inherent power imbalance in the relationship. His youngest sister, Emma, says, "I don't think it's about power. It's about roles that complement each other." I say complementary roles based on gender are inherently limiting, that they assume men and women have fundamentally different capabilities. Emma says, "Well, we do though, don't we? Like biologically." I say biological differences don't necessitate social role differences, that the idea that women are naturally more nurturing or domestic is a social construct. Rachel cuts in and says, "Look, I don't know about all that, but I love being a mom and I love taking care of my home. My husband works hard, so I don't have to. And I work hard, so he comes home to a peaceful house and healthy kids. We're a team." I say, "But you're economically dependent on him. Don't you see how that's dangerous? What if something happens to him? What if he decides to leave?" She looks actually offended now. "He's not going to leave. We're married. We made vows." I say, "Statistically, divorce rates are high. You should protect yourself." Emma says, "You know what I think? I think you're so obsessed with protecting yourself that you can't imagine actually trusting someone." Direct hit. I'm actually taken aback. I say, "Trust is fine, but blind dependence is different." His oldest sister, Margaret, who's been quiet, finally speaks up. "You know what's funny? You think we're trapped, but you seem pretty unhappy for someone who's so free." I'm about to respond when Michael appears and suggests we get some air. We walk outside, and he's clearly upset. Says I was rude to his sisters. I say I was just having a conversation, expressing my views. He says I was condescending and judgmental. I say if they felt judged, maybe it's because deep down they know I'm right. Michael stops walking. "You really think you're superior to them? Don't. What you?" I say I think I've made different choices, more empowered choices. He says my sister Rachel has a degree in engineering. She worked for Boeing for 6 years. She chose to stay home with her kids. Emma was a competitive athlete, could have gone pro in soccer, chose to get married and start a family instead. Margaret ran her own business before deciding she wanted to homeschool her kids. These aren't women who don't know what options exist. They chose their lives. I say choices made under patriarchy aren't real choices. He just stares at me. Do you hear yourself? You're saying that any choice you wouldn't make isn't valid. That's not feminism. That's just arrogance. I'm getting angry now. Tell him that I spent years fighting against exactly the kind of life his sisters are living, that I refuse to apologize for wanting more for women than domestic servitude. He says they don't want your more. They're happy with what they have. I say happiness isn't the only measure of a life well lived. Achievement, independence, those matter too. He says to you, they matter to you. We barely speak the rest of the weekend. Drive home is silent. I think maybe we're done. Which is fine. I don't need a man who can't handle a woman with strong convictions. But Michael doesn't break up with me. Instead, over the next few weeks, he starts asking me questions like deep questions about what I want from life. Where do I see myself in 10 years? What makes me feel fulfilled? What I value in relationships? I give him my standard answers: career advancement, financial independence, personal freedom, mutual respect between equals. He listens, but he seems unsatisfied with my answers. One night, about a month after the wedding, we're at his place. He's making dinner. We alternate. Who cooks? Very equitable. He says, I've been thinking a lot about what you said at the wedding. I say, about your sisters. He says, about everything. About relationships, about what makes a good doll partnership. I'm thinking, okay, good. He's come around to my perspective. But then he says, I think we want fundamentally different things. I bristle, say, because I won't just submit to traditional gender roles. He says, no, because you think wanting traditional things is wrong. I say, it's not wrong, it's just limiting. He says, what if I told you that I want a wife who wants to be a wife? I say, what does that even mean? He says, it means I want someone who sees value in building a home together, not just coexisting in the same space. Someone who wants kids and wants to be present for them. Someone who's warm and nurturing, who makes our house feel like a home. Someone loyal, who's committed to making a life together work, not always keeping one foot out the door in case something better comes along. I'm speechless for a second. Then I say, so, you want a 1950s housewife? He says, I want a partner who embraces femininity, who doesn't see traditional roles as oppression. I say, I'm an emergency department physician. I save lives. I'm at the top of my field, and you're saying that's not enough. It's not enough because I won't play housewife. He very calmly says it's not about enough. It's about fit. So, you're an amazing doctor. You're intelligent and accomplished, but you're also rigid and judgmental. You think your way of living is the only enlightened way. You look down on women who make different choices. And honestly, you're not very warm. You're not very giving. Everything is transactional with you. I'm actually stunned. No one has ever said anything like this to me. I say transactional. We split everything equally. That's fair. He says fair isn't the same as generous. My parents have been married 40 years. You know why? Because they don't keep score. My dad worked long hours to support the family. My mom created a home and raised 4 kids. Neither of them thinks they got the short end. They're grateful for what the other does. They're loyal to each other. They choose each other every day. I say, your mom is economically dependent on your dad. She has no power. He says, my mom has all the power. Are you kidding? My dad worships her. He works hard because he wants to provide for her. She makes his life beautiful. They're not in competition. They're in partnership. I say that's just conditioning. She's been taught to accept that dynamic. He says, or maybe, just maybe, you've been taught to reject anything that looks traditional, even if it works. I'm actually getting emotional now, which I hate. Say, so what are you saying? You want to break up because I won't be subservient? He says, I'm saying I want to break up because I want something you can't give me. I want loyalty, not independence. I want warmth, not equality metrics. I want someone who wants to build a family, not someone who sees family as a patriarchal trap. I want someone feminine and soft, not someone who thinks those qualities are weaknesses. I say feminine and soft, so weak. He says, you prove my point. You think femininity is weakness. That's sad. I'm crying now. Actually crying. Say, I've built everything. My whole life, my career, my independence. I don't need anyone. He says, I know. And that's the problem. You're so proud of not needing anyone that you can't actually connect with anyone. I'm not looking for someone who needs me. I'm looking for someone who wants me. Someone who chooses to be with me. Not because it's equitable, but because it feels like home. You don't want a partner, you want a roommate who you occasionally sleep with. I say that's not true. But even as I say it, I'm thinking about my relationships, how I've always kept everyone at arm's length, how I've prided myself on being able to walk away anytime, how I've never let anyone really in, because that would be vulnerable. And vulnerability is weakness. Michael says, I'm going to marry someone like my sisters, someone who wants what they have, someone who sees value in creating a home, raising kids, being a wife, not because she has to, but because she wants to. Someone loyal and feminine and warm, someone who balances me out instead of competing with me. I say, so, you're just going to find some submissive woman who will give up her dreams? He says, I'm going to find someone whose dream is to have a family and a husband who adores her. Just because that's not your dream doesn't make it invalid. I don't know what to say. I want to argue, but I'm tired. Tired of always arguing, always proving, always defending. I leave, cry the whole drive home, call my Thursday wine friend Sarah, tell her everything. Expect her to validate me, tell me Michael is a sexist asshole, but she's quiet. Then she says, honestly, he kind of has a point. I say, what? She says, we're all alone. All of us. We've built these amazing careers and we're all alone. I'm 36. I want kids. I want a husband. But I've spent so long being independent that I don't know how to be anything else. I go on dates and men can sense it, that I'm not really open, that I'm interviewing them like a job candidate. I'm exhausted. I say, but we're successful. We're accomplished. She says, I know, and I'm grateful for that. But sometimes I wonder if we've been so focused on not being our mothers that we've rejected everything they had that was actually good. My mom has been married 38 years. She's happy. She has grandkids she adores. She has a partner who would do anything for her. What do I have? A nice apartment and a good job, and no one to come home to. I'm crying again. Say, I don't know how to be what he wants. She says, maybe that's okay. Maybe you don't have to be. But maybe he's right that you shouldn't judge women who are. We hang up. I spend the next few weeks in this weird fog, going through motions at work, coming home to my empty condo. It's immaculate, everything in its place, no one to mess it up, no one to share it with. I think about Michael's family, how chaotic and loud it was, but also how warm, how they genuinely enjoyed being together, how his sisters looked at their husbands, how their husbands looked at them. There was something there I've never had. Loyalty, real deep, chosen loyalty. Not splitting the check, not taking turns cooking, but actual partnership, where you don't keep score because you're on the same team. I think about my own relationships, how I've always had an exit strategy, always kept my finances separate. Smart, I tell myself. Always maintained my own social circles. Independent, I tell myself. Always been ready to leave if things didn't meet my standards. High standards, I tell myself. But really, I've just been terrified. Terrified of needing someone. Terrified of being vulnerable. Terrified of being my mother who depended on my father and then fell apart when he had an affair. I built my whole identity in opposition to her. Never depend on a man, never need anyone, never be vulnerable. And I'm not my mother, but I'm also alone. Completely, utterly alone. I see Michael one more time to exchange stuff we'd left at each other's places. He's cordial, kind even. I ask if he's seeing anyone. He says he's been on a few dates. I feel a stab of something. Jealousy. Loss. I say, I hope you find what you're looking for. And I mean it. He says, I hope you do too. I say, what if what I'm looking for doesn't exist? He says, what if you're looking for the wrong thing? I don't have an answer. 6 months later, I hear through mutual friends that Michael is engaged to a kindergarten teacher. She wants a big family. They're already talking about her maybe staying home once kids come. I stalk her Instagram. Pathetic. I know. She's pretty feminine. Posts pictures of baking and hiking and her and Michael looking happy. Genuinely happy. Not splitting the check happy. Not taking turns cooking happy. But that deep, secure, loyal happiness. I'm sitting in my condo looking at her pictures. I'm 35 now, top of my field, financially independent, accomplished, and so alone. My Thursday wine friends are the same. We still meet, but the conversations have gotten sadder, less about achievements, more about dating apps and failed relationships. One of them started seeing a therapist for commitment issues. Another is considering freezing her eggs. We don't talk about it directly, but we all feel it. that maybe we were sold a bill of goods, that we could have it all, career and family and independence and partnership. But really, you have to choose. And we chose. And now we're living with that choice. I think about Michael saying, I'm not warm, not giving, everything is transactional. I hate that he's right. But he is. I've spent so long protecting myself that I've become hard, rigid. I judge other women for their choices. Because if their choices are valid, then maybe mine aren't the only right path. And I've built my entire identity on my path being the enlightened one, the empowered one, the feminist one. But what has it gotten me? What has all this fierce independence and self sufficiency actually brought into my life? Professional success? Yes. Financial security? Yes. But connection, partnership, family, loyalty? None of that. I think about what Michael wanted: loyalty, femininity, warmth. Someone who wants to build a home, not just maintain a living space. Someone who sees partnership as more than equitable distribution of labor. Someone who wants him, not just tolerates him as long as he meets certain criteria. I could never be that. I don't even know how to start. My whole identity is built on not being that, on being strong, independent, needing no one, laugh on judging women who choose differently as less enlightened. I'm at work treating a patient, elderly woman, came in with her husband of 52 years. She's okay, just needed some stitches. But watching them together, the way he holds her hand, the way she teases him, the way they communicate without words after 5 decades together, that's loyalty. That's partnership. That's what I've been so busy being too enlightened for. I discharge her and go sit in the break room, cry into my shitty vending machine coffee. One of the nurses asks if I'm okay. I say, I'm fine. Because that's what I always say. I'm always fine, always capable, always handling it, never needing anyone. And I'm realizing that might be the loneliest way to live. Michael was right. I valued all the wrong things, built my identity on rejecting what I actually wanted deep down. Because admitting I wanted loyalty and partnership and family would mean admitting that maybe the traditional things aren't all oppression. Maybe some of them are just, or just wanting, or just human, right? Wanting to be chosen, wanting to belong to someone who belongs to you, wanting to build something together that's more than the sum of its parts. But I can't admit that because my whole identity, my whole framework for understanding the world is built on those things being patriarchal traps. So I'm stuck, too proud to change, too aware to be happy with what I have, too rigid to become what anyone would want to build a life with. I'm exactly what I wanted to be, and it's not enough. It was never going to be enough because I built a life but not a home, achieved success but not connection, proved I don't need anyone. And now I'm living with that proof every single day, alone. If this confession kept you hooked, make sure to subscribe, like, and share. We share powerful true stories every day that explore the complex realities of life.